You might not know much about Chinese clans in Singapore. Most people today barely even talk about them. But back in the day, they were a huge deal, and they were making a lot of significant deals with very significant individuals. See, Chinese clans were mostly inhabited by mainland Chinese immigrants, and at the time, British officers would come down to quote-unquote talk to these Chinese clans. Problem is, however, most of them couldn't even speak English. So in order to negotiate with these British officers, Chinese clans would employ someone who was able to speak both Chinese and English to act as essentially the middleman. Let's say the British government in Singapore gave an official statement to one of these Chinese clans, but most of them couldn't even read the letter in the first place. So the English writer would translate this letter, present it to the council, and then subsequently relay the response back to the British government. Now this begs the question, why couldn't the mainland Chinese immigrants speak English? Why did they have to employ English writers in the first place? Well, they were pretty poor. They didn't have much education back then, and actually most of them were just farmers looking for better opportunities. While they may be experts at farming crops and growing the best vegetables, they weren't the best in having the best conversations in English. We were invited to go down to a gathering during Chinese New Year by one of the Chinese clans in Singapore, the Gang clan. See, I didn't even know Chinese clans existed, but they do. But once we reached there, I felt very out of place. You see, the event was primarily in Chinese, and as a native Bruneian, I barely understood what was going on. Well, eventually after mingling around, watching all the uncles and aunties chatting amongst themselves, the lions came and then they started dancing and sharing all their good luck around. Oh my god, the loud music followed, the lion was doing all their dance moves, and as all this was happening, there were like these 10-year-old kids behind us just on their phones, totally ignoring the lion. Like, bro, the lion was doing its best to spread its good luck around, and then you're over here on your phone. Like, at least like look at the lion. Look at him trying his best. So the lion got so frustrated from being ignored, he threw the cabbage at us, and then the cabbage hit my face, so like, that was fun. Apparently the cabbage was for good luck, so okay, never mind. As I was picking out food from the buffet, it just so happened that I eavesdropped on some of the uncles and aunties that were there. So some of them were like,
after we finish eating, we go already. Hey, but got lucky draw eh?
Yes, there was a lucky draw there. Exciting, right? You wanna guess what the grand prize was? A ticket to a random Chinese singer concert that nobody heard about. So was the Chinese New Year event good? Would I go again? Yeah, sure. For the food. In modern Singapore, the sight of families making bacang the old-fashioned way is becoming rare. However, some continue to uphold traditional methods of cooking them, passing down the skills from one generation to the next. Now, one such example can be seen from this article here. Two people were seen boiling bacang along a HDB corridor, using repurposed metal tins that once held cooking oil. Now, within seconds, a batch of freshly cooked bacang tied together with raffia string was lifted from the pot. Now, the man handling the dumplings could hardly wait to taste them, and while the rest were carefully lowered back into the boiling water to continue cooking. Now, once cooked, the bacang are shared among family and friends, reinforcing the kampung spirit, the spirit of togetherness and tradition. But what exactly is in the bacang? Now, the Hokkien version uses glutinous rice, stir-fried with soy sauce, 5 spice powder, marinated pork and chestnuts, and then that's it. And then while the Cantonese version uses glutinous rice, seasoned with salt and garlic oil, green beans, pork belly, and or lard for the filling. For many families, making a rice dumpling is more than just a cooking process. It is an act of love, a time of bonding, and a way of preserving heritage. As the Dragon Boat Festival approaches, it is very common to see grandmothers, mothers, and daughters gathered around the kitchen, carefully preparing bacang together. Now, while modern conveniences have made it easier to buy ready-made bacang from stores, the art of making them by hand remains an important cultural practice. So the next time you bite into a steaming, fragrant bacang, take a moment to appreciate maybe the generations of love and traditions wrapped inside. Meet Wugang, this guy who has the worst job ever. So this guy wanted to be immortal, he became immortal, and then one day he went up to heaven. But how did he become immortal? I don't know, no one knows. But then before he reached heaven, he messes up and did a quote-unquote mistake. Heaven kicks him out. But what did he do? See, no one knows also lah. So maybe he spilled some celestial coffee on the Jade Emperor. Maybe he liked too many of Zhang He's Instagram posts. See, no one knows also lah.
So anyway, bro.
Either way, as punishment, he was sent to the moon and was asked to chop down a quote-unquote magic tree. Sounds easy, right? You just chop down the tree, right? Every time Wugang chopped down the tree with his axe, the tree grows back instantly. He chops down the tree again, then the tree just grows back again. How does it keep growing back? No one knows. That's Wugang for you. And get this, if you look up at the moon, you might actually see him. So moral of the story, immortality sounds great, right? It sounds very fun, right? But then just imagine you're sentenced to chopping down the same tree forever. So what do you think Wugang did to deserve this? Leave your theories in the comments below. What is the significance behind rice dumplings? This is a story that you would not believe. This story centers around Zhiyan, who was a poet, patriot, and imperial advisor that lived during the turbulent Warring States period. A loyal minister of the kingdom of Chu, Zhiyan was deeply troubled by corruption in the royal court and the looming threat of rival states. And when the kingdom of Chu eventually fell to rival forces, Zhiyan, heartbroken and devastated, threw himself into the Milo River as an act of protest and despair. The local villagers, upon hearing of his fate, rushed over to the river in an attempt to save him. When they could not find his body, they dropped balls of rice into the river, hoping that the fish would eat the rice instead of his remains. Later, a fisherman claimed that Zhiyan appeared to him in a dream. In the dream, Zhiyan revealed that the dragons had been devouring the rice offerings before they could reach him. Now, to counter this, the villagers began wrapping the rice in chinaberry leaves and tying them with colorful threads before tossing them into the river, believing that this would deter the dragons and ensure the rice reached Zhiyan's spirit. From then on, people continued this ritual of throwing rice balls into the river on the 5th day of the 5th lunar month, a date that later became the Dragon Ball Festival. Now, over time, the simple rice balls evolved into bacang. Now, while modern celebration includes Dragon Ball races, family gatherings, and feasting on bacang, the festival remains a tribute to Zhiyan's legacy. Before Singapore became the modern city that we know today, life here was pretty rough. Chinese immigrants came here with absolutely nothing. They were basically out to fend for themselves. But this is where the Chinese clans came in to save them. Clans helped immigrants to settle down. They helped them to find jobs, housing, even providing free education to everyone. Maybe if you were sick or you had some kind of problem, the Chinese clans would literally just take care of everything. In a way, these clans were the government before, the government was actually established in Singapore. But as Singapore modernized, the role of these clans started to diminish. Schools, banks, and the government started providing the services that clans used to handle. So while they're still around today, promoting the culture and heritage of their clans, most of us don't even think about them anymore. But why would anyone go out of their way to help out total strangers? Let me introduce to you Gan Eng Seng, one of the pioneers of Singapore. See, Gan Eng Seng was not just a businessman, he was deeply involved in these clans and made sure that they actually helped people. Born in 1844 in Malacca, Gan Eng Seng came to Singapore as a teenager. He never had it easy. See, his first job was manual labor, literally hauling heavy goods from cargo ships every single day for a British trading company. See, unlike most workers, Gan Eng Seng paid attention to everything around him. What specifically? Well, he studied how businesses work, how trade flowed, and how money was made. See, Gan Eng Seng eventually stopped being a manual laborer and he took over the very same business he did manual labor for and actually became a major player in the trading industry. Just from this alone, he made so much money that he became one of the richest men in Singapore at that time. But he never forgot where he came from. Instead of hoarding his generational wealth, he wanted to give back some of that wealth to the community. And in 1885, he founded the Gan Eng Seng School, one of the first schools for underprivileged children. Education was his way of breaking the cycle of poverty because he knew that with knowledge, kids could actually build better lives. And over 100 years later, his school still stands. Gan Eng Seng wasn't just a businessman. He was part of a bigger system, the Chinese clans, that made sure people had support when they needed it the most. While clans aren't as important as it is today, the idea behind them, helping the community and lifting people up, is probably something we can still learn from.